Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me is Andrew Meadows.
Hello, sir.
Well, I think you should be saying boo.
Yeah. So we have a very special episode. We're covering, at least, I want to go out on a limb and say it's probably one of my favorite, well, it's probably one of our favorite horror franchises, I think.
I think that's true. Definitely up there. And a very eclectic franchise, as I've kind of rediscovered, I suppose, and rewatching these films. It's been a while for, I think, all of them. Since I've seen any of them. And so there was definitely some things that I remembered and some things I didn't remember and things that stuck out and stuff. But it's the Evil Dead franchise, if we hadn't said that already. And if anyone hasn't, looked at the title of this episode to figure out what it is, it's a little Sam Raimi goodness for the most part. We are actually going to be talking about the reboot as well. So we're talking about 4 films on this episode. This bonus episode, I should say. In fact, it's bonus episode number 20 by my count.
Dang!
So, yeah, we're racking up the bonus episodes, you might say. So how bonus episodes work, I just want to get that out up front for anyone listening. Our bonus episodes are timed exclusive bonuses for our supporters on Patreon, which is just basically a crowdfunding platform that we are on, designed basically to just kind of help us support hosting costs, anything like that, just kind of keep the podcast a little bit more sustainable and give our listeners kind of an option to, give it back if they so choose. And as a result, we offer up incentives like these bonus episodes that we're doing now and like the ones we've done in the past, as well as early access to all of our regular episodes. So I want to say, if you are a supporter on Patreon and that's how you're listening to this episode, we greatly, greatly appreciate your support. And if you're listening to this on the regular feed, we also greatly appreciate your support. But we do want to just throw it out there as an option for you. If you do want to support us on Patreon and listen to these episodes even sooner, head to patreon.com/watchreviewrepeat, or just head to our website, watchreviewrepeat.com, and click the premium tab in the top left, and then click the Become a Patron button. And that is where you'll need to be. So, all that said, I think it's time that we can just go ahead and dive right in. That's the beauty of the bonus episodes, is we don't have to waste our time talking about news, fun facts, whatever. It'll just all come up naturally, So the Evil Dead franchise, man. Let me ask you, just right off the top, you started saying that it was maybe one of your favorite horror franchises, and corrected to say ours, which is true. But I want to know more about your experiences with the Evil Dead franchise. What's your maybe earliest memory, or just in general, kind of what are your thoughts, man?
Okay, so first memory of the Evil Dead happened on a trip to West Virginia when I was less than 10 years old, and my uncle thought it would be cool to show me the original Evil Dead. And
that's
my
a cool uncle.
Yeah. At the time, he had the most badass home theater setup I had ever seen. He had surround sound, which I had not seen surround sound in a house before. He had a big screen TV. And I found it pretty frightening, the original Evil Dead. And so, yeah, that's the first impression. Then I downloaded it and I watched it a couple times. On the DL, had to keep it private, but I saw that a couple times.
It's out in the open now, unfortunately.
That's it. I don't think I had seen Evil Dead 2, or I didn't remember seeing it. Like, it felt like I haven't seen that one in a very long time. Or maybe I only saw it like one time, where I watched the original one a bunch of times, so I knew that one through and through. I don't know. But the second most memorable thing I can remember is playing the Evil Dead video games,
which I believe we did together.
We did that
at
together
least for a good chunk of it, if I had to guess.
Yeah,
I think there was like a couple games. I know we talked about this like many episodes ago, where we were just kind of musing about Evil Dead in general. But Was it a fistful of boomstick?
Yeah.
Was it just Hail to the King? Was there one that was just called Hail to the King, maybe?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, cool. I don't know if we ever beat either of those games, but we definitely put some serious hours into them, as I recall. Yeah, I remember them being pretty fun. Like, kind of janky a little bit for, like, what they were, but, like, still really fun.
Yeah. And they kind of capitalize on some of the more humorous and...
right, yeah, a lot of one-liners and stuff, courtesy of one Bruce Campbell and such, so...
Right. And then there was Army of Darkness, which was always I've always really enjoyed that one. And so I have a lot of affinity towards the franchise, and I started the show. I didn't finish the show, but the show is very much in line with Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, and the video games kind of vibes.
Right.
So the franchise kind of it seems like it's been it's kind of taken on that kind of...
It's definitely shifted away from its original horror roots in favor of a more slapstick comedic style.
Right.
And it's basically stuck to that, aside from, I guess, basically the reboot kind of being more of a throwback to the original. And that's something, obviously, I think we'll touch on as we make our way through each of these movies, is the progression and tone and feel and stuff, and maybe our thoughts on that and such, but...
Yeah.
So it sounds like from an early age, Evil Dead made an impression on you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. It's always been a fun one. So I think, like I said, I think it might be my favorite like horror franchise.
Yeah.
And a lot of that might be nostalgia, but might be nostalgic. Yeah. We'll talk about it.
We will. All right. Well, I just wanted to get a little bit of a baseline from you, just to let our listeners in on kind of what it means to you. I was trying to rack my brain, and I can't think of like maybe my earliest exposure to the franchise. I feel like it was kind of intertangled with you. Like, that's kind of what I think of. Like, I do think about the times playing the video game, and like we surely must have watched the movies like around the same time.
I know we watched Army of Darkness. I do know that.
Yeah, so I feel like I don't remember like the earliest like instance of me watching any of these, but I know I've definitely seen them all before. I kind of forgot parts of them, because I think it had been a while for most of them. But I remember when we were younger, certainly when we lived a little bit closer to each other, we had a lot of interactions with the franchise, so it's always kind of had a special place in my heart as something that's always been really, really fun and really well done too. Not even just like, I think it's more than just a nostalgic thing. Like, I think there is a real quality to this franchise.
Absolutely.
I think overall consistent, even through the tonal whiplash in a way of kind of watching them in quick succession. But so yeah, well, let me do this. Let me just talk about the franchise in general. For anyone unfamiliar, it's a supernatural horror comedy film franchise, according to Wikipedia. 4 feature films, also the television series, which you mentioned. So the 4 feature films that we're going to talk about on this episode are The Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, and Evil Dead. We won't be talking about the TV show. I know you said you've watched some of it. I haven't watched any of it. I would like to watch it at some point. I think it's all on Netflix actually right now, but I think there's 3 full seasons of it. I believe it aired on Starz originally. And I feel like people liked it pretty well. I feel like you might have liked it pretty well, at least from what you saw. So that's something that I would like to watch, and maybe we could cover that at some point, but it just wasn't feasible for the purposes of a bonus episode like this. Like, I kind of hesitated. I think I almost suggested that we do this last year in place of, the episode we did end up doing about the horror around the globe, but I was just like, oh, I'd want to do the TV series too. And I'm like, you know what? Like, that's just too much content. You know what I mean? It's like too much, like literally just to watch through that and be able to talk about it. Like, I think you'd have to split it regardless, but yeah, maybe it's an idea. Maybe next Halloween, who's to say? But so it's a very kind of basic franchise. I mean, it's got this one thing that it basically revolves around in all of these movies, which is this book,
the Necronomicon,
the Book of the Dead, the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, which is like a Sumerian text. Where some people decide to be dumbasses and read it out loud, and bad things happen. That's really kind of the baseline for all of these movies, and most of them happen to take place inside a cabin for the most part, with one major exception in the 4 films that we're talking about. And where would you be with Evil Dead without the contributions of Bruce Campbell, who is kind of the guy, through the main trilogy. Not so much the reboot, which is kind of somewhat separated, and we'll get into that. But it's Sam Raimi, it's Bruce Campbell, and it's horror comedy. It's just it's so much fun. I'm really excited to talk about these films.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll save some overall thoughts for our final thoughts on everything. I think it's probably a good time that we go ahead and get going on the first film in the franchise. If you agree.
Absolutely. Let's dive into it.
All right. So let's talk about a movie called The Evil Dead, released October 15th of 1981, written and directed by Sam Raimi. And as a side note, some people probably recognize Sam Raimi's name. I would say he's most popularly known now, these days, for directing the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy. But he very, very much started his career doing kind of low-budget horror, a la the Evil Dead franchise. I think he did like Darkman, I think in the 90s-ish, somewhere around there.
Right.
He's done other stuff. He's done horror since. He did Drag Me to Hell after the Spider-Man trilogy, but he's been a lot less prolific, I think, these days. Maybe just more I think he's been working more maybe in a producer role. But just to throw that out there, just so people are like, who, what, when, where, why? There you go. That's Sam Raimi. And he's the guy that directed 3 out of these 4 movies. So the first Evil Dead stars Bruce Campbell, Ellen Sandweiss, Hal Delrich, Betsy Baker, and Teresa Tilly. It's about 5 friends that travel to a cabin in the woods where they unknowingly release flesh-possessing demons. So as you've already kind of talked about, you've seen this film a lot of times. I expect you rewatched it
yes,
for this
definitely.
episode as well.
Yeah.
All right. So did your most recent viewing live up to those lofty expectations you've probably kind of had stored internally?
It did. I think that this movie's a radical success. It was one of Sam Raimi's first movies. If I remember right, I remember taking a pretty deep dive in this movie. I found it pretty inspiring. I think him and Bruce Campbell were friends in like Michigan or something, and they got they scrounged together the money to make the movie. They ended up getting $90,000. And that this is on according to Wikipedia. And anyways, they showed it, and it ended up grossing $2.4 million in the U.S. and a total of $29.4 million worldwide, off a $90,000 budget in 1981, which is fucking bonkers. It's a huge success, and it does live up to the kind of that. I remember it fondly, and I rewatch it, and it's like, yeah, no, this is a totally good movie. And it's so simple, it's so incredibly simple. And I think that kind of adds to the charm. But it's more than that. The cinematography is super unique. I think the makeup's cool. And just, I really, really, really like the idea. They find this book, bound in human flesh and inked in blood, and it summons the fucking demons. And it's, I don't know, I just think it's really cool. And I found it super frightening when I was a kid. I didn't find it super frightening this time. But you could see where, if you hadn't seen anything like this before in the 80s, where it would be pretty scary. Probably the same way I viewed it when I was younger. I think it's a really cool premise, and I think it's incredibly well made. I think it's well paced. It's not very long.
None of these are. I think they're all like either an hour and a half exactly, or just under it, basically. So they're all very kind of breezy in terms of runtime.
Yeah. But like I said, I think it's paced well. And I know it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I like this movie. Yeah,
this is a great movie. I mean, it's to me, it's just really impressive, like what Raimi and company were able to do with the amount of money that they had at their disposal. Because I still think, like, yeah, I mean, like, so I actually have this in 4K, and so like you can kind of tell, like certainly when like Cheryl, for instance, is like a deadite and she's kind of in the cellar, like you can kind of see like around the eyes where it's just like the mask and there's just makeup on it. Like, but like it never ruins the illusion of it, really. It's just like, for the most part, it all feels pretty well realized. You know what I mean? Like, and more so than I think you would expect for, you know, a movie made for what, like $100,000. I mean, it's insane to me to think about how well this still holds up to this day.
And I think
let alone how it played, you know, like you said, in the 80s when it came out. Like, yeah, it's probably shocking as all hell. Now, granted, I guess you probably had Texas Chainsaw and a couple other things that have kind of come and gone in that time period. But at the same time, like, this is still my point being, like, is this is still effective? Like the sound alone, like a lot of the noises, like the Deadites use, like the possession and stuff like that, still feels kind of unnerving.
Yeah,
you know.
And the sounds of the cabin and the practicality of it all. And that, I think that's a staple for the movie, is just everything's practical, which is really cool. Yeah, so not to cut you off, but practicality.
No, that's quite all right. You know, I mean, it's all really just kind of effectively unnerving, I think, is kind of how I describe the entire movie. You know, it starts off pretty innocently and things unravel pretty quickly, as is standard for horror movies. But in this one, you know, I think it is kind of a simple structure, but the more that things unravel, I think the more that things get interesting. And I feel like there's still, even though I think this one, especially compared to the later entries, is easily the most like straight horror, at least in terms of the Raimi trilogy. Of course, it's the only one that really is pure horror. You would say there's still kind of a playfulness to it, which is really interesting. Like, it still is designed to be scary, but the demons are just toying with people, and that's what I think makes it unnerving, is that, like, the humor in this movie comes from basically the Deadites having fun with, you know, these hapless humans, you know, in a way. Like, it's a really kind of clever way to go about that. And then, you know, as you move into Evil Dead 2, it kind of shifts where the protagonist is given more of that back at the baddies. But here it's kind of played straight. But because it's played straight, I think that's why it works, as, you know, the demons just kind of making fun of the protagonists and stuff. Like, I don't know, I really, really enjoy that aspect of it. That said, there are some dark fucking moments in this movie. I believe there's a tree rape in this movie, which is pretty brutal.
Never seen that before.
I don't think any theater goers had seen that at the time. That's for sure.
I remember when I watched
a little too much, but
I remember when I watched that as a kid.
Yeah,
I was just I did not know what I was witnessing. Like, it blew my mind. It's like, shit.
Yeah, no, especially, I mean, even today, that's still pretty, like, okay, that like.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I think just kind of, again, the build up throughout, and, you know, and it works in a way because I feel like, you know, this is kind of the only movie I think in the franchise where Ash isn't like you really don't even see Ash like evolve into too much of a badass throughout this movie. He's mostly just a survivor.
Right.
Whereas I think in the others, he's more kind of built up to be the guy, you know, that, you know, who through his sheer will or through just the events of the movies, like, he becomes more and more badass and embraces that lifestyle. Whereas here, really just he's like, you know, it's just him. It's very reactive to everything around him.
Right.
But it makes it feel real, and it makes it, you know, feel authentic, man.
It's a good 100% horror movie. For sure.
It is. It is. And I think full credit is owed to Sam Raimi for the directing. This movie is so badass. The cinematography in this movie is awesome. You know, I think
we used to make the movies when we were younger, and
right,
like, this was like direct inspiration for camera movements and panning.
Exactly.
And all that good
but
stuff.
It's so creative. Like, I wish I had more specific, like, instances of, like, where it's creative, but, like, it's creative in a way that I think it's probably almost designed to be a cost-saving measure, i.e., we can't film this, but how can we do this creatively? And sometimes that is a good inspiration, is to just have, like, well, you don't have the way to do this probably the way that you'd want to do it, so figure out a way to do it and then do it. And I feel like that's kind of the genius of, especially this movie, where it's just like, work around your limitations. And then in some ways that actually makes it more effective than if you had just kind of done it in the way that you would expect it. Like, I don't know, but even beyond just kind of working beyond, limitations. I feel like it's just kind of creative and almost kind of unsettling by the nature of the filmmaking and how it depicts things. I mean, the Deadite camera, I think, is probably the biggest one that I can think of, which is kind of what you're talking about, where we've definitely, in our youth, when we made our short films, we definitely used the Deadite camera as kind of a, thing where it's, just kind of, I think we were literally just running with the camera at something, and that was kind of the idea, but it probably wasn't too different when they were filming this movie. It was just like...
It's a staple with these movies. I think they probably only had one camera. It certainly seems that way. So everything would sweep. All the shots were sweeping. If you wanted multiple characters in the thing, it was usually one shot, and it would just pick up and sweep over to the other character. Or if there was if I'm talking at the dinner and the cellar door flings open, that camera's just moving and zooming in real quick on the noise, which I thought was really cool. I
think that's what it is. There's a lot of kind of not quite whip pans, but almost kind of like whip pans with everything, where things are fine for the frame, and then something happens, and instead of a cut, it's a pan.
Poof, poof. Yes.
Let's move over here, and shit's going crazy, and then, it's the Deadite kind of just going ham in the corner or something like that. I feel like they had to be really kind of creative with how they filmed it, and it shows in the execution of it. I think on a technical level, even just putting aside the kind of budgetary limitations, like I said, I think it's really just honestly astonishing what they were able to pull off with this one. And I think it's astonishing that, I would agree with you in the sense that it's not quote unquote scary for me. I didn't feel scared, you know what I mean? But I felt like it was still appropriately unnerving when it needed to be. I feel like the Deadite design still holds up, even with the makeup seams being visible and all, there's still a bit of, gore in it. I think there's more, in the later films.
Wow. Not to cut you off, but to cut you off. I've got something
Okay,
good.
Well, go ahead. You've got some goodies for me.
Yeah, so I'm scrolling through the Wikipedia page while you were talking, and there's an editing situation, or an editing set of paragraphs here. It says, after the extensive filming process, Raimi had a mountain of footage that he had to put together. He chose a Detroit Editing Association where he met Edna Paul to cut the film. Paul's assistant was Joel Cohen of the Coen brothers, who helped the film's editing. Yeah. Cohen had been inspired by Raimi's Within the Woods, which I think was
it's like a short film I think that he had made prior to this.
Yeah, to kind of build interest in the project, I guess.
Yeah.
And like the idea of producing a prototype film to help build interest in the investors is what he says. Joel used the concept to help make Blood Simple with his brother Ethan, and he and Raimi became friends following the editing process. It's pretty cool.
I was just looking at the same paragraph. It has kind of some notes about the sounds, because I kind of mentioned that.
Yeah.
It says that a lot of the effects had to be redone in the editing room. Dead chickens were stabbed to replicate the sounds of mutilated flesh, and Bruce Campbell had to scream into a microphone for several hours. So I'm sure he had fun doing that. I just found that last line kind of funny. I think this is the kind of movie that, honestly, I didn't look too closely. I just kind of watched the movie, popped it out of my Blu-ray player, and called it a day on it. But I got to imagine there's probably a pretty good making of, and it would be super fucking interesting to watch.
What's that?
I might have to seek that out. If there's a making of documentary, or a featurette or something like that on the Blu-ray or whatever, I do think that would be pretty interesting to.
It's certainly like a Clerk situation. You know what I mean? As far as its success, its cult following, and all that good stuff.
Low budget success story that kind of blossoms into bigger and badder things, kind of moving forward in the career, but still holds up. I mean, first Clerk's very different movie, obviously, but still absolutely holds up. Some people, I think, argue it's still the best Kevin Smith movie, but I guess you could make an argument that this is still the best Sam Raimi movie. I think depending on your perspective. So, yeah.
We'll talk about it.
I'm not sure if I have too much else to offer up on the film itself. It's a great film for any horror buffs. If you haven't seen it,
see it.
I don't think it's anything surprising. You know what I mean? It's not. You've seen. I think maybe by virtue of the fact that 40 years have passed since this movie was made, you've seen movies that have aped its style or satirized it or something like that in some sort of manner. But it still doesn't, I don't think it removes the freshness of it in any sort of way. It still feels it still holds up. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest compliments you can pay to it is it's not just I'm sure it was pretty good at the time. No, it's still good. Like this movie still holds up. I think I would still hold this up as arguably one of the best horror films of all time.
Yes.
And that's through the strength of the filmmaking, through the strength of, the performances in this one I think are pretty understated and some are probably kind of bad, or at least dated, you could say.
Right.
But Bruce Campbell's is not. Bruce Campbell, you still see that charm in him. Like, I think he uses it more in future films, again, just kind of due to the nature of the character, but he's still good here. And the performances, just even the physical performances behind the Deadites, it's still effective. It still works. It's still scary, or at least could have that effect. I think if you showed this to an 8-year-old right now,
they'd be pretty wonked out by it. I think.
They might have some nightmares. You know what I mean? So I think that it still works in that manner. So yeah, that's the Evil Dead. Do you have any other just general thoughts on the movie itself?
No, I think we covered everything. I think that's about it. It's a really good 80s horror movie. Serves as inspiration for a lot of other movies, I think. I think that's worth stating, too. Yeah,
absolutely. In the spirit of our bonus episodes, I'm going to ask you if you have a favorite moment within the Evil Dead you'd like to talk about. Shout out.
You know what got me? It always gets me pumped up when I'm watching this movie every single time. is when they go down in the cellar, they find the book and the recording, and they start playing the recording.
I see. Yeah.
And then that guy's the doctor's voice or whoever it is that's reading it. I found the ancient Sumerian text. I took it to the woods with my wife. Something has awakened in the woods. I believe my wife to be possessed by a whatever demon, some sort of demon.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what he says.
But yeah, I'm always like,
it's got a good voice for it. It's a good radio voice.
It's a good radio voice, and then all of a sudden, because they cut back and forth in the recording of the fucking Deadite coming out of the ground or whatever and start speeding through the forest, and it's like, oh shit, it's going down. That's always my favorite moment. I like that spot. I like that moment in time. Yep. What about you, man? What's your favorite moment?
I would say my favorite moment, and in a way it's kind of inspired by like my mental image of this film. Like when I think about the Evil Dead, what first comes to mind is the Deadite in the cellar just like poking her head up. Just the visual of that.
Oh, inside,
you know what I'm talking about?
Cellar? Yeah, and it's chained down.
Yeah, like when she's chained down in the cellar, and she just kind of has her head kind of poking it up, like like a foot, or at least as high as it'll go, just kind of taunting the people in the room, and what's wrong with her eyes, stuff like that. And I think the way that they actually do it in the first one is it's like a first person perspective where you actually see it from like the Deadite's angle, which it kind of mirrors I guess how the Deadite camera has, but now it's taken over, I guess, Cheryl at this point. And, she's just kind of looking around and everyone's like freaking the fuck out. But it's from this kind of very low angle that you're seeing everyone reacting to it. And it still, it feels like you're in the moment. Like it's a really kind of effective use of that perspective within the film. And it just kind of highlights, I think, the technicality of the film in general and how smart it is to use camera angles, camera movements, stuff like that to emphasize the horror. I think that I think that's the strength of this film, is how it manages to pull all that off so well. So that's the kind of moment, is Cheryl as the possessed Deadite, just poking her head up, she just wants to say hi.
Yeah.
She wants their souls.
Always drink your soul. That's it. Man, that's cool.
All right. So that's the Evil Dead, is it not?
That is.
Let's move on to the second film in the franchise, Evil Dead 2, sometimes known as Evil Dead 2: Dead by Dawn. I think it was marketed as such or something like that.
Something like that.
I think they say it in the movie, so I guess that's probably where it came from. Dead by Dawn, Dead by Dawn. Like this, are they kind of chanting it at one point?
Yeah.
So Evil Dead 2 was released March 13th of 1987, written by Sam Raimi and Scott Spiegel, directed by Sam Raimi, starring Bruce Campbell, Sarah Berry, Dan Hicks, Cassie Wesley, Ted Raimi, and Denise Bixler. The lone survivor of an onslaught of flesh-possessing spirits holes up in a cabin with a group of strangers while the demons continue their attack. So we're at Evil Dead 2, and you said you hadn't seen this one in a while.
Yeah,
right?
I didn't remember a whole lot of it at all, to be honest with you.
Okay, so now that your memory has been sufficiently refreshed, what are your feelings on Evil Dead 2?
So this one's the pacing on this one is strange, because it you know, they have the I don't know, they got like this recap of the first one, I guess.
Well, the beginning is definitely kind of a little. I think if you hadn't seen the first one in 6 years, it's totally fine. But when you watch it, within a day, a week, or something like that, it's like a reshot version of the first one, but like characters are missing, and it's a different actress that's playing Linda. It's just kind of weird. I think what happened was that they couldn't get the rights to use footage from the first one, so they just said fucking reshot part of it. But it's weird because it doesn't really feel connected right off the bat.
This is like it feels like a total. Like
it feels like they're like, oh, let's just take some ideas that worked in the first one and just make a new version of it. And,
correct.
Expand from that. We've got a bigger budget to play with. We've probably got millions of dollars to play with now. So let's just redo it, do it the way we wanted to do it, and we'll just go from there. Like I think Raimi and Campbell have said like, no, this is a sequel. You know what I mean? Like they insist that it's connected in continuity to the first one, but it really does. Not even just tonally, which obviously is
like content-wise, story-wise, it feels
like just right off the bat, it's just like, well, it just feels incongruous. So it doesn't feel
I'm
like
Ash,
a
I'm going to take my
so
new
much as its own
girlfriend.
thing.
I'm going to take my new girlfriend to the same cabin we got fucked up, and then I'm going to replay the fucking the radio again. I'm going to do it all again.
But so that's the thing is it's supposed to be his same girlfriend, but they kind of stripped out some of the aspects of what happened in the first one, so that it kind of picks up like with him basically just getting possessed, as we kind of saw at the end of the first one. That's what it's supposed to be. But it doesn't feel like that.
No, it's weird.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which I think the recasting doesn't help in like the fact that like even if you'd recast everyone, it would make sense. But it does kind of feel like, wait, he went back? That's kind of the way it plays because it doesn't feel authentic to what the first one did. It's a minor quibble, I think, honestly. I think it was just more of just kind of a logistical thing was kind of why they did it.
I think it's totally fine on a standalone thing, but then
but like as trying to be part of this bigger whole, it feels weird. Especially in the way that like Evil Dead 2 builds into Army of Darkness. It makes sense. It feels connected, especially with how it kind of ends and picks up. Like it kind of makes sense. Whereas this one is just kind of like, you know what? We're going in a different direction. We'll just kind of take what we liked and piecemeal it together and make it our own thing. Again, not a bad approach, but it definitely feels separated. It's weird. That regard. But anyway.
Yeah. So anyways, they're Kandarian demons. That's what I think is what they are. I think they say it in I think they say it in this one.
Yeah.
At any rate, this one definitely separates itself in the fact that Ash gets possessed by a demon, but I guess something happens with the daylight or something and it drives out the demon or something, and so he's kind of like in a weird limbo.
Right. Yeah.
But it drives him absolutely insane, and I really enjoyed that perspective of it. Like he's alone in the cabin, and everything's going crazy, seeing ghosts, or he's not seeing ghosts. He starts laughing. The whole house starts laughing at him, and he starts laughing, and everything's going crazy.
Yeah, there's like a fucking head on the wall that like starts turning and laughing at him the whole time.
Yeah, the moose. I think it's a big moose.
Is it a moose? Yeah,
or a deer. I don't know. Either way,
something, some sort of animal.
Yeah, it gets real crazy. His hand gets possessed at some point and starts fucking with him, and so he chops it off with a chainsaw, and that's where we get the iconic
with the motherfucking chainsaw.
Yeah, just off with his hand. He's laughing while he's doing it, and he just goes absolutely crazy. And then those people come up to the cabin, and one's like a hillbilly dude with his girlfriend, and it's just it gets really weird. But it's a lot of fun. It's definitely a lot of fun. They take the camera work that they had in the first one, crank it up to 11 in this one, which is it makes it really interesting. Definitely a lot less scary. Like this one didn't
intentionally so. Though.
Yeah, right. But yeah, it's definitely not a. I guess they would call it. I guess it's a horror comedy, but it's,
I think it's exactly. I think it's a melding of the two genres, but it definitely is comedic through the vast majority of its runtime.
Right. But yeah, totally fun movie. They take the interesting lore that they developed in the first one and they injected it in this one, and then Ash starts to become the Deadite Slayer badass in this one, which I think is pretty cool. Like I say, he offs his hand and then he ends up connecting the chainsaw to it. Yeah, which is just chainsaw hands fucking cool. It'll always be cool.
Badass.
You'll never
it'll never not be cool.
Right, exactly. I don't know. Like how he makes a small sheet chop, he saws off his shotgun. So now he's got a short shotgun and a chainsaw, which is just he becomes a badass in this movie, and it's
for sure
a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's definitely I think this movie hinges around Bruce Campbell. Like, I think they realized, or I mean, like I said, I know Raimi and Campbell were friends, and I honestly don't know how many movies Bruce Campbell had acted in prior to The Evil Deads. It's possible he had a relatively prolific career. I'm taking a quick look, and it looks like no, that wasn't the case. So I feel like, and you make the first Evil Dead, you see Bruce Campbell, and you're like, oh, this guy's pretty magnetic. Let's do something more with that. And I feel like Evil Dead 2 is kind of responsive to that of, you know what? Fuck these other, dingbats. Like, it's the Bruce Campbell show now. And I think you get that with Army of Darkness as well, for sure. But this, to me, feels like it's like a tour de force performance for Bruce Campbell. Like, he is in his fucking element in this movie.
Yeah.
With, the physical comedy alone, like, just with the hand, like, the facial expressions, like, he sells all of it. He's so good in it. Like, I love it. And even just kind of, corny one-liners here and there. And even just kind of more introspective moments, like, kind of when it starts, it's a little bit more, at least closer to Evil Dead in the tone before it kind of evolves into this kind of goofier comedic take on mostly the same premise, really. Deadites in a cabin. What are you going to do? Oh no. But Bruce Campbell, man, he is the man, and we got to shout out the impressive Chen, of course, because how could you not? But I mean, he is really, really quite good in this film. And he's kind of the one that carries the load. I mean, it's kind of, none of the other characters in this movie are
there's other characters
memorable in any sort of way. Yeah, exactly. Like, they're like, all right, you got this, hillbilly guy, and you're like, all right, he's fucking goofy as hell, and his girlfriend, who's, I don't know, she's too cool for school or whatever her angle is. And then I guess you've got the professor's daughter, who's kind of more, I guess she's a little bit more spunky. She's a little bit more willing to go toe to toe with the Deadites and kind of be a little bit closer to Ash's level. But Ash is on his own level, man. He's just here. He's doing things. He's fighting his own hand. He's sawing his own hand off with a fucking chainsaw, and he's evolving into this kind of badass character, this kind of self-aware badass character of just being like, yeah, this isn't my first rodeo. Like, that's kind of his thing. And it's really fun to kind of see that throughout this movie, to see him kind of move from kind of regular Joe to, just badass. So I really enjoy that. I think, I feel like I'm more of just a straight horror kind of guy in general.
You and me both.
So I kind of feel like I steer more towards the tone and feel of the first one. I think this one does do a good job of kind of towing the line between the two, but sometimes I wanted more of one and then I got the other, or something like that. Like, there was a couple times where I felt like sometimes they were in tension, even though I think that was very much the intent. I think just from my perspective, I was just kind of like, there's parts of this I think that could work exceptionally well played straight, and they're really never played straight. Right. And then there's things in this where it leans into it, especially with like the hand stuff and like the physical comedy involved, where I'm like, I don't think you could really do that convincingly if you were playing it straight in any sort of way.
No.
So there's parts of it I think that are fine to kind of do it that way, where it's kind of a horror type setting with a comedic tone slapped onto it. But overall, I mean, it really does kind of just feel like the soft remake of one, and kind of a different manner.
With different tone, right.
Right, just intended to be kind of this more comedic take on it. And I think that it succeeds with flying colors at doing that. But I guess I guess the thing is that's going to be something that you're going to like or not. I guess maybe is kind of going to be the catch with this film.
Because it's very different.
Just like know what you're walking into. Like, I think it's tough when you watch one and then you just like you watch a sequel and you're expecting, I don't want to say more of the same, but at least expecting pretty substantially similar.
At least
and
totally same.
You don't really get that here. It really feels like it's going off in its own new, weird, different direction. But I think if you acknowledge that, I think if you accept that, I think it does that all really well. The trademark, the Evil Dead trademark camera work is still ever present in this. The technicality, I think, is still ever present. Mm-hmm. It still feels definitively like a Sam Raimi movie, and in some ways, it actually feels more definitively Raimi than maybe even the first Evil Dead does, because having seen subsequent films, this is closer to kind of what he does.
It's just an evolution of his filmmaking, I think you see in this one.
Yeah, but I think just the style and stuff. You think you kind of, he started playing it straight, and then I think he kind of leaned into more of his maybe more comedic sensibilities, and I kind of feel like he maybe thought he found strength in that, and kind of has continued to do that. And I think even in the Spider-Man films, you still feel that. Sure. That influence, just in terms of tone and stuff like that. It's closer to an Evil Dead 2 Army of Darkness tone than it is to the Evil Dead tone. Not that it's exactly the same, obviously, but I do like this film. It gets weird. It gets out there. The hand stuff obviously is a big thing. It's kind of out there. It's like the first one. Shit just goes sideways. I did not remember the ending of this film where it's the
black hole.
I guess it's. I didn't remember that, but I guess not the literal end of the film. I guess maybe like the kind of. The main threat, I guess, the main physical threat is it's the wife of the professor, if that's right. I guess it's the girl. It's the girl's mother in the basement. Yeah. And then it turns into this big thing with like a long fucking neck or whatever. And I'm just like, I don't remember any of this. I guess there's a lot of stop motion type stuff in this, which I guess there was a little bit of that in the first one, but here it's like they like really, really leaned into it.
A bigger budget.
Yeah, I guess, and this is the one where there's another Ash, and he's like, isn't he like a dancing skeleton or something like that at some point?
He buries his girlfriend out there in the.
She comes out and starts dancing. Yeah, she's like decomposed and stuff like that, and it's all like stop motion. I'm like, wow, this is pretty fucking goofy. Yeah. But it was pretty funny, but it was just like it was weird because I feel like that was kind of the first like point where it was just like, oh no, this is a comedy.
This is totally different.
So it's. Yeah, so it's kind of just like what's going on here?
And a large portion of that too might be Ash losing his mind.
True.
He's just going and maybe that's how he's like the laughing on the walls and stuff. The whole house is laughing and he's laughing. He's just going fucking.
He laughs alongside him. Yeah,
fucking going crazy. Like I said, it might be. You might be experiencing some of the humor that he would be experiencing. He's just like
getting a little delusional in the cabin, you might say.
Right. A little cabin fever, if you will.
Oh, a little cabin fever. Oh, I do. Let's see. Any other thoughts on this? I'm trying to rack my brain, see if there's anything that really kind of stands out. But I feel like we covered it. I mean, again, it's a different movie. It's absolutely a different movie. It was intended to be a different movie. And I think a lot of people swear by this movie, like finding that this is the kind of tone where Evil Dead kind of hit its stride, and it has obviously leaned into that direction moving forward. So clearly they're not alone in those and those thoughts. So, favorite moment?
Favorite moment in this one is just the. Ash by himself in the house, just going crazy, lopping off his hand, and just like I said, just losing his mind. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, my favorite moment is kind of the same thing. I wrote in the script Ash versus the hand, so that was kind of just kind of the physical comedy of him kind of struggling with it, literally, and
it dragging him.
Basically, the ultimate, confrontation with that, where he has to chop it off, and then it's still not done from there, and kind of faking it out when it's going to stab him and stuff like that. Like, it was all really funny, but still kind of like really well done too. So, and that's another thing for me, like where I'm like, let me think about Evil Dead 2, and I'm like, Oh, it's the hand. It's when he cuts his hand off, and he gets the chainsaw hand, of course. Like, that's iconic, obviously, but that's the kind of thing that sticks out for me about this movie. At least that's the thing that I remembered about this movie, which I hadn't seen in a long time. So I kind of feel like
it's the birth of a badass
for a reason.
It's the birth of the quintessential Ash character.
It's the birth of the king, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So Army of Darkness is next on the list. You ready to talk about it?
Yes.
Released February 19th, 1993, written by Sam and Ivan Raimi. Directed by Sam Raimi, stars Bruce Campbell, Embeth Davidtz, Marcus Gilbert, and Ian Abercrombie. In this, a man is accidentally transported to 1300 AD, where he must battle an army of the dead and retrieve the Necronomicon so he can return home. I guess we started talking a little bit, I guess, about the ending of Evil Dead 2. I did forget that it basically dropped him in the medieval times. I didn't remember that being part of Evil Dead 2. But he's very much in the medieval times in Army of Darkness, which sounds like you have some fondness for. Do you want to talk about that?
So, Evil Dead 2 was toting a line of horror comedy.
Not so much here. Yeah.
Not so much here. This one's just a straight up action adventure comedy. And I guess maybe I don't know if you'd consider it horror because it's dealing with.
I mean, I guess you've got kind of horror-esque elements like the skeletons and the evil Ash. Like it's vaguely like horror adjacent, but barely, like just by the slimmest of margins, you might say.
Yeah. So I like this one a lot. I think because it's not that the other one didn't know what it was, but because it was two things that they put together.
Yeah.
And I don't, there's only other one movie that I really like I really, really, really like it that totes those lines, and that's Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, and that one does it very, very well. That one does it
very well. I think it obviously drew inspiration from Evil Dead 2, but I have to say that I like the way that Cabin in the Woods did it. I like the way that it did it a lot. And Army of Darkness is just full tilt, and I feel like even the show I feel is full tilt Army of Darkness style. I think it's got more horror elements, like it's gorier and stuff like that, but it feels like an extension of Army of Darkness. And to be fair, Army of Darkness is an extension of Evil Dead 2. It's a continuation of that. I just like where it goes. A whole lot. I think it's really funny. I think it's really charming. I think that I really enjoy Ash as a character in this movie. Just the one-liners and just
give me some sugar, baby.
Yeah, I mean, just it's ridiculous. He's like Johnny Bravo. Yeah. Like, yeah, I don't know what he is, but he's crazy. He's got he crafts a functioning bionic hand in medieval times. Like he's some sort of fucking genius. He's got chemistry 101 in his fucking in his trunk.
He was full Mad Max. I fucking loved it. Yeah, the fucking the
helicopter car. It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. It's stupid crazy. And it's a lot of fun. I can't talk enough. I can't give this movie enough praise.
Yeah, it's fucking funny. And it's super enjoyable, and it's really, really truncated too. In kind of a good way. Like it's just a very kind of breezy watch. If I could interject for a second, I'd like to ask you an important question. What are your thoughts on Lord Arthur's hair in this film?
Yeah. So the first time you see Lord Arthur with his fucking stupid bangs, his stupid haircut. Oh man. That character is such a doofus. Yeah. He is the whole time.
But I like how like pretty much half the characters of this movies are just absolute doofuses. He's got that one guy with him, like that's part of his troupe, and he just looks like a fucking doofus with like kind of hair sticking out on the side.
You talking about the big guy with the mustache?
No. It's he's a smaller guy. He's like balding on the top, and he's kind of got hair sticking out. Then there's just a straight up bald guy that's like a badass. He's just like, I will join your cause.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
The fucking Merlin-esque character who knows the he throws him the chainsaw and he leaps up in the pit and it clicks in his hand.
Yeah.
Remember that? Oh man, it's so good.
What
the best movie. One though. This is my boomstick, and all the people fucking freak out. They
all right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
Oh, and I thought it was great when he he teaches them all how to fight. And then they break in and they do the same exact thing.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good.
This is a funny ass movie. Like, I think even more than just the one-liners. Like, the one-liners are funny, but I think there's more just kind of physical comedy in this, and like a lot of it is coming from both sides of the equation. Like the skeleton army are like, they're all a bunch of like a dinguses basically, and they're like they're kind of doing their own one-liners, and even just like the when they create all the explosives and like they start blowing the skeletons up left and right, they're like will like do something and then they'll react like, oh, what? It's like kind of Power Rangers-esque in a way, but it's fucking funny as a result. It's
I like the physical comedy when not the physical comedy. I guess it's physical comedy where he'll like shoots somebody behind his back and he just goes and he brings the shotgun down and oh man, it's a really good movie. Where did I put this out on my ranking for future reference? Okay, it's where it needs to be.
Yeah.
So I thoroughly enjoy this one. It's full tilt comedy, starring a badass character, Ash, and that's it.
Yeah, but I think that's why it works so well, is because it's less concerned about towing the line and kind of having the horror aspects, and it's just full tilt of it's just comedy. And we're throwing Ash, who's kind of developed into this badass character, into this this different setting. I think that's one of the things I like about this most, is that it feels fresher because it's not just kind of doing the same thing that the first one did, but in a different way. It's like, no, let's just fucking change it up. And I think actually the original Evil Dead 2 was supposed to be basically what Army of Darkness became. Like, it was supposed to be Ash in the Middle Ages, but they didn't have the budget for it at the time, and this budget is still like 4 times what Evil Dead 2's budget was.
I gotcha.
And I think it looks like it too, although it also was made a little bit later, so advancements in technology and such as well. But I think that's what makes it work. It's funny, it's new, and Bruce Campbell continues to crush it. Maybe this is the most like. I guess when I think about Ash, Ashley Williams, like I think about Army of Darkness one-liner spewing Ash. Like that's kind of the iconic version of him. He's still got the chainsaw hand for the most part.
You got the
I guess he's got the boomstick. I guess he has the metal hand, which I think of less as a less iconic version of him, to be fair. But it's still it's just fucking funny. It's fun. It's awesome. You, I assume, probably watched the theatrical cut of this, I think, right? Does that sound right? I think
so, yeah. I streamed it from Stars.
All right, so I bring that up because I bought, there's a Scream Factory Collector's Edition that I bought the Blu-ray of because I sadly did not own this film on Blu-ray. I owned all the other ones in some fashion, but I didn't own this one, so I had to rectify that mistake. So I bought the nice version of it. It has new transfers of the film from like a 4K master. Looked great.
Wow.
But there's 3 different versions of the film. Actually, there's 4 technically, but there's 3 only in HD, or full HD, I should say. So there's a theatrical, which is what I ended up watching because I kind of figured that's what you had watched, and I wanted to keep our kind of reactions consistent. But there's also a director's cut, which I think has like 15 extra minutes or so, and a different ending. And there's an international cut, which I think reinserts a lot of the footage from the director's cut, but maintains the theatrical American ending. So have you ever seen the original ending for this film?
The ending at the supermarket or the S-Mart?
So the S-Mart is the one that we got in the theatrical cut, but that was not the quote-unquote original ending.
Oh, no. What's the original ending?
So the original ending, which is on the Blu-ray, and I watched it just because I had never seen it before. I'd always just thought of, the S-Smart ending of Hail to the King, baby. Like, I'm like, that's fucking iconic. Like, how could you have an ending different than that? But the original ending is that it kind of continues on from when he receives like the bottle with the potion. Is like, you must take 6 drops and blah blah blah. And Ash, he goes into a cave, puts the Oldsmobile in there, and then collapses rocks around it so no one can find it. And then he starts to drink the potion. He gets like 4 or 5 drops in, and then he gets distracted by a rock falling, and he takes a couple extra drops by accident.
Right.
And he ends up waking up in a post-apocalyptic future.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And he's got like caveman hair, like super long beard and everything. And he walks outside. He's like, all right, I'm home. He gets through the rocks. Then he's just like, I slept too long. And like that's the end of the movie. Which is still kind of funny too, but it was just like, oh, that's a dark fucking ending. But it was actually kind of like, I was like, if that was setting up, an Army of Darkness 2, where it's Ash versus post-apocalyptic Deadites, I'd be like, that'd be a fucking sick movie.
That'd be. But at the same
time, like the S-Smart ending is so fucking iconic on my brain. I'm like, no, I still like that ending better. The one that we get with him being like, what, baby, I am the king.
Once again, they can go in 2 different directions if they choose. You know?
Yeah.
Obviously, they picked up the show picked up like 2 decades later, and it's a continuation of
the theatrical with him in the S-Smart.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's what I thought.
But
it was interesting. I almost watched the director's cut because I'd never seen it, but I was just like, well, that's how it ends in the director's cut. Apparently, that's how Raimi wanted it to end. And I think everyone was just kind of just like, yeah, it's a little too dark for this film, dude, which I think is kind of true. But I don't know. It was kind of fun. It was fun to watch.
I think I have to watch that on YouTube.
Yeah, you should check it out. I'm sure you can find it pretty easily. It's definitely worth looking into. It was just kind of funny. It was kind of interesting that they ended up doing that. Yeah, what a fun film. Evil Ash is kind of it's pretty funny. A little dual Bruce Campbell performance is kind of fun. I enjoyed that.
Was he I think did he play like the decomposed Evil Ash Army of the Dark, the leader of the Army of the Darkness?
Yeah, that was him too.
That was him too. Okay.
Yeah, you can kind of tell if you're like looking for it, I think.
Yeah.
It's not dissimilar from Evil Dead 2 in the sense that the supporting cast is basically nothing. You know what I mean? Like, it's the Bruce Campbell show through and through. But I feel like there is at least a bit of humor more to these characters than there was in Evil Dead 2 with like the other people. Like, they were more straight-laced in terms of characterization, whereas everyone here is just designed to be a goober by default. And so it kind of just adds, I think, to the comedy of the movie in a way. So, right. I don't know. So yeah. Do you have? I'm gonna ask you a couple questions regarding Army of Darkness, because I feel like this is the one that really kind of, it demands it. What's your? Do you have a favorite quote maybe from Army of Darkness? Like if you had to like think about your iconic like Ash quote, like what would you go to? Like if someone was just like quote Ash,
quote Ash. It would be.
What would you say?
I'm torn between.
Right, well, you can give me a few or a couple, whatever you want to do.
This is my boomstick.
Oh, I mean, it's awesome.
And Hail to the King, baby.
Classic, also
classic. Yeah, Hail to the King, baby is like you say Hail to the King, and I can picture the whole thing. Yes, just bend her over, give her a big kiss, and just fucking owning it. Just the man.
You ever pull that one off in your real life when you're not busy recording? Well, okay. I might try that one out.
Yeah,
what
exactly. I might have to try. It'd be pretty good.
Well, I'll be a single man before long, so I guess there you go.
Hail to the King, baby.
I would say, I have a fondness for good, bad. I'm the guy with the gun. Yeah. I think it's a good one. It's a good line, but Hail to the King, baby has to be iconic. I mean, come on.
It's good. Give me some sugar. Or
give me some sugar is pretty good too.
Or it's just pillow talk, baby.
just pillow talk. Well, it wasn't to me.
Right. It's all good. It's so good.
All right. Favorite moment, maybe?
Favorite moment in this one. I like. There's a lot of good moments in this. I'm going to pick one that we haven't picked so far, and it's the King monologue. You know, so it turns out he's telling the story to one of the S-Mart guys who's like half asleep, and he's like, you know, I could have stayed back there, and I could have been king, but in a lot of ways, I am a king, you know, or whatever. I think he continues the monologue after the Deadite comes into S-Mart, but either way, the King monologue, I really enjoyed that, and the boomstick, of course. Him beating the shit out of that Deadite and then climbing up the thing and then dropping that boomstick on him. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that's my favorite moment is when he gets dropped into the pit. You know, he kicks the Deadite's ass and then he comes out and everyone's just like, oh, you know, like, like this is our savior, you know, and he's just like, it's like, you know, it's like, all right, shut the fuck up, idiots. Listen, this is what's up. Like I that moment to me is awesome. Like, and that's like definitive peak Ash in a way. So that's what I picked as my favorite moment. This is my boomstick. So good. So good. We got one more. We got one more in us, don't we?
Yes, we do.
We've got the likes of Evil Dead, released a little bit later, April 5th, 2013. A reboot, remake, sequel.
Soft
we'll get
reboot?
Into it. Something along those lines. Soft reboot, maybe a good classification for it. Written by Fede Alvarez and Rodo Sayegues. Directed by Fede Alvarez. Starring Jane Levy, Shiloh Fernandez, Lou Taylor Pucci, Jessica Lucas, and Elizabeth Blackmore. Wow. I mean, this synopsis is going to be mind-blowing, but get ready. 5 friends head to a remote cabin where the discovery of a book of the dead leads them to unwittingly summon up demons living in the nearby woods. Didn't see that one coming. Yeah, this is pretty recent. Let's see, timeline-wise, I would have been living in Florida at the time, so when this came out, you obviously would have been living in Florida at the time.
Yes.
I can't remember. Did we see this together? I don't think we did, but I'm just curious.
I think we
if you
did.
recall anything. Did we see it? Maybe
I think
we
so.
did. Okay. Huh.
I think so.
You know, it's hard to remember so long ago. 6 years. I mean, such a long time. But okay. All right. I was thinking maybe we had, but I just couldn't remember.
I think we saw it together, and then I think that year, or maybe the next year, Halloween Horror Nights had it as a
I do remember doing the Halloween Horror Nights house that was inspired by it. I definitely remember that much.
Fucking incredible.
Which was awesome.
Best
Yeah,
house I think I've
legit.
ever been into, I think. It was awesome. Anyways.
Yeah.
God, can you remember walking up to that house? They had a little cabin on the soundstage, and they had all that fire. It looked like it was on fire.
Yeah.
And they had the fucking tapes playing with the doctor reading the tapes. Mm-hmm. Oh, man, so good. It was such a good deal. Anyways, I'll quit talking.
It was a really
it.
well done house. I haven't been to Horror Nights in a long time. So sad. Dangerous of living too far away, I suppose. Mm-hmm. So Evil Dead, the 2013 soft reboot. We'll go with that of Evil Dead. It's very much not a comedy.
No.
We can start there. But actually, I mean, kind of. Since you've revisited it, what do you think? What do you think about it?
What do I think about this one? I think this is a fucking incredible horror movie.
I'm digging it. Oh, you like this one a lot.
I like this one a whole lot.
All right, well, tell me about it. What do you like about it so much?
It's visceral. It's fucking a lot of it's hard to watch. But it's not like it's hard to watch because like there's Hostel hard to watch, which is just like it just. I don't know. It's just a lot of it's super unnerving. And like I said, it's super visceral. It's super graphic. It makes you cringe a little bit. And it's pretty frightening. I like how they there's a lot of skepticism about what's happening, because she's a heroin addict or something. And so they bring her to the cabin to try to bring her, to try to, what's the word? To dry her out, right? And like, we're not doing this. You're not doing
cold
that.
turkey.
Yes, we're gonna get you through this. And so she starts freaking out, and everybody's like, it's just her. They find the book, but then they don't think anything of the book, and she's just acting this way because she's going through withdrawal, right? Which I think is a super awesome, clever way to try to explain it to the characters. Right? But then shit just gets turned up to 11. She starts hacking her face off with broken glass in the bathroom. She starts cutting her tongue in half. She starts talking and they pin her underneath the thing. And oh man, it's just incredible. It's just so good. So good. It has to be, I have to say that I don't know. The cinematography is awesome. Sound design in this one is ridiculous. The score is incredibly frightening. It's just pure dread. They do the tree thing, which was really fucked up and weird in this one too. And yeah, I love this movie. Love it, love it, love it. What do you think about it?
I think it's pretty fucking good. I mean, remakes are notoriously difficult to pull off. I think there's always kind of a lot of resistance around them of like, do we need this? Like, who is this for? Etc. And I think they did a really good job with this one, especially in the wake of, I guess at the time, this is pre-Ash versus the Evil Dead TV show being a thing. Like, this is much more of a throwback to the Evil Dead in terms of its horror roots, but then it takes it a step further. Like, this is way gorier, way more graphic than the Evil Dead was, probably because it, had a bigger budget, technology, again, advancing in the way that it did. But it feels like it's like, what if we did Evil Dead? What if we did Evil Dead as straight-laced as literally possible? Like, let's just go for it. And it's still... It retains some of the stylings of Evil Dead, so it doesn't just feel like it's just a generic horror film, right? Like it could have. Like, I think it could have felt like a lot of just generic horror films. Like, it's like, no, let's inject this with some of the life that the Evil Dead had, all the way back in 1981. Let's update it for modern sensibilities. Let's add some new wrinkles into it. Let's make it a little bit different. Let's give it a different protagonist. There's no Bruce Campbell. Well, that's not true. There's no real Bruce Campbell in this film. It's a new perspective. And there's more background to these characters. There's a little bit more depth to these characters than we've ever gotten in any of the Evil Dead films. And let's see how that works. And there are new wrinkles. I think like the abomination at the end is kind of a new thing. We didn't really get anything in. So they tried to kind of expand on the lore of the Book of the Dead and kind of what it is and kind of what it causes, what it does, and stuff like that. So it's taking what worked and modernizing it and making it really fucking good and approachable. I mean, I guess that's kind of a weird way to describe it. Approachable if you like this sort of thing. I'll say that. If you're not predisposed to gore and horror, this is not for you. Obviously, it'll give you nightmares. You know what I mean?
It's a fucked up movie.
But
it's really cool though. When I watched the original Evil Dead when I was young, I found it like I find this movie now. You know what I mean? Like I think that this one has a bit more terror involved in it. Like, I think even for an older audience, like it's a little bit more impactful, I think, overall in terms of just pure horror. And they keep I think they do a really good job of keeping the Deadite persona, but they're not floating around. They're not doing any of that. But they're like, sense of humor and their fucked upness is still very present.
They're still taunting everyone, like, right. Your little sister's being raped in hell, that sort of thing. I was just being like, okay, which is very Exorcist actually, in kind of its
right.
Kind of its
and
own
I was
way,
actually,
but
yeah, it's like they combine the demon of the Exorcist and stuff, and they put it. It's like combining the two. That's a really good reference. It's like a blend between The Exorcist and Evil Dead.
Yeah,
it's pretty. Yeah,
cool. it's kind of like Reagan was in The Exorcist, of kind of taunting them, and then you have I guess Pazuzu kind of coming to the forefront and giving Father Karras shit. And here it's kind of the same thing of Mia giving her brother and her friends and everyone, just kind of this shit, but through the form of this demon. What is it? I guess it's a demon. I guess that's kind of what it's implied to be, but it's still, it's fucking with them, and it's slowly kind of converting and corrupting all of them into their own kind of deadite that kind of does their own thing. But Mia is kind of the one that's, for the most part, kind of the most fucked up through all of this, and is really kind of the one directing the action, which is kind of interesting because I remember when this was like, being advertised, when it was close to coming out, like they were talking about how Jane Levy's character, Mia, is like, oh, she's like kind of the new Ash. And Ash is never possessed in the first Evil Dead, to my recollection, until maybe the end, when it's kind of implied that, when like the camera is about to hit him and like that's it. Right. So it's a very different kind of feel for the protagonist, because Mia, she has the big moment in the third act where she kind of does step into that Ash type role with the chainsaw and stuff, but like for 2/3 of this movie she's a deadite. And I remember the first time I watched it, I'm like, were they just fucking with us just to like subvert expectations, or what's the angle here? But it was kind of interesting that they still kind of ultimately ended up leaning into that, and I feel like she's the best performer in the movie, so it kind of worked as a result of that.
It's so terrifying. There's something in here, or whatever. What did she say?
There's something in here
with us now, and it's here right now, or something
it's here
like that.
Now. Yeah.
Oh, man.
She's kind of whispering.
She's a fucking incredible actress in this movie.
Yeah, she's great. I think she's been in like some TV shows and stuff like that. And I guess she was in Don't Breathe, which is by the same director as this film.
Okay.
If you saw that. But I feel like I haven't seen her in enough things, but the things that I have seen her in, she's been great in. Oh, well, no shit. She's apparently in Castle Rock. Something you might know a little something about. She plays a character by the name of Jackie Torrance. So I don't know if maybe she hasn't shown up yet or something, but
I don't know.
Anyway. She's usually a redhead, I guess, if that helps at all. I don't know how she is in that show, but she was obviously not a redhead in this movie. Yeah. I'm looking at the poster right now for the movie. It says, the most terrifying film you will ever experience. I don't know if that's technically true, but then again, I don't have a good counterpoint to that.
No,
it is a film that's legitimately just kind of, it just kind of throws you into it, and it doesn't really relent at any point. I guess there's a comeuppance at the end when she's fucking taking the chainsaw and blood spewing everywhere as it's raining blood, and she fucking chainsaws this fucking abomination in half. But like it's just kind of that the whole time. Even when there is triumphant moments, it's still kind of it's brutal, and it's graphic, and someone's chopping their fucking arm off with the fucking turkey cutter or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's fucked up, dude.
Sawing your own face off with mirror shards, and it's just like, oh. One guy, the guy with the long hair and the glasses, man, that guy gets fucking beaten up through this whole fucking movie.
Yes, he does.
He gets stabbed with a needle a few times. He gets hit with the nail gun a few times. Like, this guy just goes through the ringer. And you think he's done for, and then he comes back and kills
I totally didn't
man.
recognize her, by the way. Jackie Torrance.
But you do recognize her now?
Yeah.
Does she have red hair in
no,
Castle
blonde.
Rock? She's a blonde. Oh, okay. Well, that'll do it too.
Totally didn't recognize her. Anyways, yeah. So those are my feelings on Evil Dead 2013.
Yeah, I think it's really well done. I'm not sure what more you could ask for, because it doesn't feel like it's just trying to do exactly the same thing. Like, it tried to add a bit of a spin of originality to it while honoring while honoring the franchise. You still have the deadite camera. I think you still have some creative shots in this. I think it's less inventive than Sam Raimi's was, but
it's not Sam Raimi.
It's tough. It's not Sam Raimi, and also it's just kind of like, if you try to do too much, then I think you feel like you're just aping it in a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like it was kind of this unique perspective on it that, let's play it straight. Let's make it more graphic. Let's make it more visceral, as you kind of, to use the word that you used, and we'll see what happens. And I think they did a really good job with it. So I guess kind of the last interesting thing about this is there's a post-credit scene in this, which is very brief, but it features a silhouetted Ash Williams facing kind of sideways and then turning towards the camera and saying, "Groovy," which is kind of like kind of like a what is this kind of moment, and I think what happened is this is intended to be in some kind of vague way a continuation of the franchise. It's not meant to be completely separated. I think it's supposed to be
a new group of people find the book.
Like it's just, a new group of people just happen to find their way to the same cabin. You see the Oldsmobile kind of deteriorated outside. Like it's intended to be, I think, loosely a sequel. Well, obviously things happen in a manner that's suspiciously similar to the original. It still feels like, okay, there's nothing in here that really breaks the continuity. No more than Evil Dead 2 from Evil Dead 1 did anyway, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's always been kind of this kind of interesting thing of this is now kind of, and I think they really haven't done anything with it since, but they talked about doing another Armory of Darkness movie with Mia's character, and then they talked about doing a crossover in a way of Bruce Campbell with Mia, to be this kind of super film in a way. But I think that was all pre the TV series ever happening. And so that none of that ever came to fruition. They ended up doing the TV show where obviously none of these characters were involved. So now it kind of just kind of this separated thing in its own kind of weird sort of corner. Not a bad thing to be kind of its own thing, or not, and obviously not bad in its own right. But
it's a nice corner,
right? Yeah, but I do think I don't know. I feel like I guess it's not technically too late, but it does just kind of feel like a missed opportunity that they haven't tied them in together in any sort of significant way.
Even
if they did it in the TV show, I think that would have been cool. But I don't know.
Even if they continue the kind of trajectory that this one's kind of gone off in, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would enjoy another Evil Dead 2 straight horror movie. I would enjoy that. I think that would be cool.
Yeah.
If, like I said, you evolve her character to be a slapstick badass. I mean, I don't know how that tone feels after watching Evil Dead. I don't think it would work. I think it'd be really, really fucking weird.
I think that would be too much whiplash, and I think Evil Dead 2 only got away with it just because it did feel so separated to begin with. So it was just kind of like, all right, it's just kind of all right, whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas I think here it'd be. I guess I do see that perspective. It would be tough to merge the tones. Because
Right.
you'd have to, because Ash is full on comedy now, and Mia's world is full on horror. So it's just kind of like, how do you meet in the middle with that? Is there a way that works? But
Or maybe,
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you don't. You just continue like I said, you continue the trajectory. I think that would be really cool. I'd be there day one.
Yeah, it's a shame that we really haven't seen kind of any, I guess, real follow up on this particular iteration of it. But anyway, that's
Favorite moment in this one?
That's more or less it. Yeah, I guess I'll start with the favorite moment. Let's see. I wrote down the tongue splitter is what that's the words that I wrote down. I think it's a good kind of encapsulation of the visceral nature of this film with Mia taunting Natalie. I know as she kind of puts on this facade of Mia again, yeah, she's fucking with her a lot the whole time, and that I think that kind of happens after that. But it has that kind of Mia in the basement kind of moment, and I just that's the kind of visual that sticks out to me is her just taking the fucking box cutter of all things and just cutting her tongue right down the middle, and man, it's fucking brutal, but it's such a badass kind of like horror moment, not like badass in the sense that like, oh hell yeah, everyone should totally cut their tongue with a box cutter, but like no, like it sells the movie in its own sort of like microscopic way of like, this is fucking brutal, it's disgusting, it's gross, but damn is it effective, damn is it good, and like it really shows you like the Deadites, I mean, they're straight from hell.
Yeah,
basically,
there's no doubt
like,
about that.
Like they revel in this kind of sort of act, and then she like makes out with the character like right after, and I'm like, this is disgusting, but it does it. Like it's that's why it works so well, is because it's just like absolutely fucking horrifying to kind of witness. So that's kind of the thing that sticks out to me. So I suppose it's a grotesque thing to say that's my favorite moment. I guess you could say the triumphant moment of her, cutting the bitch in half might be kind of,
that's pretty cool.
Maybe pretty cool, but yeah. It's the thing that sticks out to me about this movie, of just kind of just being like, yep, that's this movie in a nutshell.
I
it's my favorite
to
moment.
be honest with you, I didn't rewatch this for the podcast, but I watched it earlier this year. Mm-hmm. Doesn't the car flip over and she pulls her arm off?
Yeah. She gets her arm trapped underneath and she has to rip her fucking arm out.
Yeah.
Like, that's some gnarly shit, yo. Yeah. Some gnarly shit.
Oh, shit. Could you imagine? Oh. Favorite moment in this one is guy goes in the bathroom, slips or something, I think, if I remember right. The room's dark and all you hear is and like, oh fuck, what's going on in there? What's going on there? And dude's over there and just fucking sawing his cheeks with the broken glass. Oh. So,
you know what? You started making that description and I was just like, we did see this together because I remember watching that moment with you. And like, I think we both kind of had this moment of just being like, oh fuck. Oh fuck.
Something in that bathroom's not right.
Like, we know something's fucked up's about to happen, and then we're just kind of just like, oh, well, hello. That was kind of, I think a collective reaction. Yeah, so he goes in there and she's the one that's doing it. She's cutting her face off.
That's what it is.
Like the nurse. And then he slips afterward, but he slips on the piece of her face that she cut off on the floor and then gets knocked out by the toilet. So it's like kind of like a weird kind of almost humorous moment, but not funny enough to break anything, but just kind of like a looking from the outside and like, oh, he slipped on a piece of flesh and knocked himself out on a toilet. Like, when you describe it that way, it's kind of funny, but in the moment you're just like, yeah, You know what? That's a fucking shit way to. That's a shit turn of events. Let's just say that.
Oh man.
Yeah.
How do you rank these movies?
I struggled with ranking these movies because, by the nature of them, they're also fucking different. It's tough to compare them in some ways. Some are straight horrors, some are straight comedies, some are somewhere in between. And so it's almost unfair to like stack them up against each other as like this one is better than the other. So I'll say in general, this is all personal preference for me. Obviously it always is. It's all opinions, and opinions are always personal preference, but I really do feel like you might love the sensibilities of one film more than the other, and it might hold a special place in your heart as a result of that.
Right.
I think I've already admitted as much that my sensibilities probably trend more towards just the straight horror of things, and it sounds like yours are very closely aligned as well. So that's kind of what informed my bases for the rankings, is just kind of these are all great. I really enjoy these all for one reason or another. I don't think there's a bad one in the bunch. So as we proceed through these rankings, don't take it to mean that one is that much better than the other. You will likely disagree, or you may disagree, and that's totally cool too. I can't argue with you. I think all these films have their own merits. I think that
Sure.
let them stand up on their own. But anyway, that's my basis for the rankings. So I can start with number 4, unless you wanna.
We can start with 4.
You just want to get into it. All right.
Yeah.
That was tough, but I put Evil Dead 2 at number 4.
We're the same there.
And I feel bad about it because I feel like people hold up Evil Dead 2 as kind of like, I feel like in a lot of cases they hold it up as their favorite of the franchise. But for me, it was just the one that worked the least for me personally.
I can understand why somebody would put that as the highest regarded movie.
Again, and that's the point I kind of made. I just spent 2 minutes explaining why I was just like, don't get mad at me for putting it this number 4. Is like, this guy was kind of what I was trying to do. But
it's kind of like the birth of the Evil Dead character. You know what I mean? And
for sure,
that's totally
and I think
good.
there's a lot of good stuff in it. But I just feel like the other ones just attacked my sensibilities a little bit more strongly, or they did what they were trying to do out, a little bit more without, like, Evil Dead 2, to me, what holds it back is that it's straddling that line between horror and comedy. Like, it's not that couldn't work. I just, and Cabin in the Woods, I think, is a great example of things where it absolutely can work, and it does work in a way I think that's better than Evil Dead 2 does it. But it was what held it back for me. It was, and maybe that was just coming off the back of the Evil Dead. If I had watched Evil Dead 2 in a bubble, I might feel differently, but like trying to put these all 4 together in a span where I've watched them now in probably the last couple weeks or so, like Evil Dead 2 just to me feels like I mean, it's just the one that I enjoyed the least. I still enjoyed it a lot, but I enjoyed it the least, and so that's just how the cookie crumbles. What did you have for number? What did you have for number 3?
I had Army of Darkness for number 3.
Okay, I'm going to diverge here. I'm going to go Evil Dead.
Okay,
the reboot, soft reboot, which I think is great, and I really enjoyed it. I think it's really, really well done, but I kind of strove for some sort of balance in my rankings where I feel like each film was kind of going for a different thing, and I feel like Evil Dead did the horror aspect of it, the straight horror aspect of it really, really well. But it comes off the backs of the original trilogy. It comes off the backs of many horror films that have come before it, and I think it's a horror film that, in the time that it came out, stands out as something that's actually pretty fucking good in a time where horror movies, I think, are really difficult to pull off effectively. And so I give it a lot of credit for that. But I hold, the other 2 entries in the Raimi trilogy just in a little higher regard. So I kind of put it at number 3 for myself. But you have Army of Darkness number 3.
I have Army of Darkness number 3.
So you're saying that it's not the king, baby?
No, I mean, it is the king in what it seeks to do. So by it being number 3, you can see what movies I prefer the horror to the comedy. As far as the franchise goes, I think that this one is the most. The other 2 movies above it, I think, are, you almost look at them like different movies, right?
Yeah.
So I prefer Army of Darkness to Evil Dead 2. And I prefer that because the character is the character is he's a singular. He is who he is. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's already there.
Right.
And there's no sort of evolution of the character, not really. And I really enjoy it for the comedy aspects of it, and I think it's a lot of fun. It's a super charming movie. The other 2 above it are just straight horror movies, and
just more your shit.
More my shit, exactly.
All right.
That's that.
Well, I'll jump in and say that I had Army of Darkness at number 2. Kind of, I think largely for the same reasons that you kind of had it as your number 3 is like, for what it is striving to do. I think it does it with flying colors. Bruce Campbell's performance, man, sells the whole fucking thing. The one-liners, man, I love them all. And it's just a fun movie. Like, it's just a fun movie to sit down and watch. It's short, it's paced well, and it's fun to take in, but and it's not like trying to be anything like super moving or super novel or anything like that. Like it absolutely is what it is, no more, no less. And I guess take it or leave it is kind of its approach. And for me, I'm just like, oh no, I really like this. It's corny as fuck, intentionally so, and I really enjoy it as a result of that. I feel like it's kind of the pinnacle of what it's trying to do, in capturing that comedy. And it does have a little, like we kind of talked about, it has horror aspects spiced into it, but not in a way that ever overrides it, in a way that I think just kind of accentuates it in its own kind of weird sort of way.
Defines its character a little bit.
Yeah, so I like Army of Darkness quite a bit. Surprised, I expected it to kind of not hold up as well as I thought it did, but when rewatching it, I was just like,
I said the same thing. It's like, oh, Army of Darkness is gonna.
I thought maybe maybe if you're 13 or 14, it's the best thing ever, and then when you're 10, 15 years old, you're just kind of like, this had its time and place, but good for it, but not now. And I rewatched it, I'm like, no, this is still my shit.
Yeah, I totally love it.
I like this a lot. This is super fucking fun. It knows exactly what it is, and it embraces that, and I love it.
And what else is there like it, really?
Right. Yeah, it's great. Well, maybe there's Ash versus Evil Dead. I wouldn't know, but
I think the show might be up there with it. But I mean, but the show doesn't take place in fucking the 14th century,
right? It's the dichotomy of Ash, the modern hero, and these fucking Middle Ages, and it's just it adds to the humor of it.
Totally really fucking bonkers.
So that's why I had it number 2. What's your number 2?
Number 2 is The Evil Dead, the original, the OG.
Okay.
So by defining my number 2, I feel like I got to talk about both of them at the same time. Why I picked one over the other.
So your number 1 is the 2013 Evil Dead.
Yes.
Okay.
So Evil Dead, The Evil Dead. It's nostalgic to me. It holds a special place in my heart. It kind of gives me a staple. The reason I like horror movies is this movie. This is why I like horror movies. I was shown this movie at an early age. Left an impact on me. The appeal of cinematography came from this movie. There's a lot of things that I appreciate in this movie. But I have to say, I think Evil Dead's probably my favorite horror movie. I think it's probably my favorite horror movie. If somebody says
of all time,
I think so. I think it might be my favorite horror movie.
Wow.
I think.
It's not mine.
I just know.
Obviously,
I'll tell. This is what I know. I know when somebody says, "I want to watch a horror movie." You know what I say?
Watch Evil Dead.
I got the perfect fucking movie. Let's watch Evil Dead. Okay, it's the scariest shit you'll watch. I can't think of a scarier movie to watch. I honestly can't. It's happened on 4 different occasions where somebody says, I want to watch a horror movie, I want to watch something scary. I say, I got the fucking scariest movie you'll ever see. I guarantee it's going to be the scariest thing you watch.
The most terrifying movie you will ever see.
Yeah, I can't think of a scarier one.
That was my theatrical trailer voice.
Yeah, and for that reason, I put that as number one. I think that if Sam Raimi was going to make if you took baby Sam Raimi and said, what do you want to make? If you dream about making a movie, what do you want to make? I think he would make something similar to Evil Dead. I think it feels like it feels like almost like what Evil Dead in 1981 wanted to be.
Yeah, but didn't have the money to pull off.
Right, didn't have the money, and times were a little bit different, so they went a different angle. The demonic possession was a little bit different. You can't be as edgy in 1981 as you could be in 2013, so I think the sensibilities were a little bit different, but I think if he were to make that movie in 2013, I think he would have made something very similar to Evil Dead. And it feels like I don't know, just feels like just fucking terrifying movie, and I really... The Evil Dead is a inspirational movie. It's a very important movie for the genre. It's an important movie for me, period. And I think that Evil Dead does a fantastic job of recreating the elements that the Evil Dead saw. Like it encapsulates it. And I think they did an awesome job. And I think, like I said, I think it's the scariest horror movie I can think of. And I think it's if it's not my favorite horror movie, it's certainly in the top 5. But yeah. I think it's my favorite horror movie. Like I said, I can't think of a scarier movie for just straight out fucking horror. Yeah. So my favorite modern horror movie. Let me rephrase that. It's my favorite modern horror movie.
Okay.
Past 2 decades.
Yeah, I could get behind that. Yeah, maybe.
In my lifetime, my favorite horror movie made within my lifetime, I should say.
Yeah.
That.
I have to do a deeper dive, but it's definitely up there for me too. In spite of it, obviously being number 3 for me, I do hold it in very high regard. So, but apparently not as high regard as you. But you know what I say to you?
What's that? What's your favorite?
I will feast on your soul.
I had to get it in there. Sorry.
Yeah. Absolutely.
My number 1 is The Evil Dead, the original. For a lot of the reasons that you've kind of talked about already. I mean, for its time, it was fucking probably pretty revolutionary in terms of filmmaking, in terms of the genre, in terms of kind of what things could be done. And it's inspiring in terms of how it was done, for the budget that it was made on by a relative nobody, starring relative nobodies. And I didn't know if I would have it at number 1. Because I didn't know how it'd hold up, and lo and behold, it still fucking holds up. I think it's going to be a timeless horror film. I really do.
Yeah.
And for what it is and how it still strikes me, like, what I think the thing is, like, when I rewatch it, I'm like, oh, this is all still so fucking clever in how it's done. And you could say that about probably certain films, but then like other films would have done it like 100,000 times over. Whereas to me, The Evil Dead doesn't feel like something that's been copied too much in a weird sort of way. Like, it feels kind of uniquely created And
Yeah,
like
it's
I think there's been
uniquely Raimi.
inspirations from it, and certainly the Evil Dead, the remake does kind of take inspiration from it, but it's still kind of its own separated thing. Whereas this is just like, oh man, it's just definitively its own thing in terms of how it was made, and I have to hold it in high regard for honestly for that alone. But also because I think it's just a really well done horror film in general. There's a lot of touchstones I think that the remake reboot hits on. And they come from the place, and I think they were done really well to begin with. And even though I think that the remake reboot does some things better, I gotta give credit to the first one. I gotta give credit where credit is due. And for me, like I'm just like, you know what?
It's the OG, man.
For a film that holds up as well as it does, in spite of my expectations walking in, I had no choice but to put it in number one personally. So that's what I did. I put it at number one. So there you have your definitive Colton and Andrew rankings of the Evil Dead franchise. But watch all of them. Maybe space them out. Like actually, that might be kind of like solid advice. Is like, don't do all of them like right next to each other because they're kind of weird watching it that way. I don't think I've ever done that before. Like watched all four in real kind of close succession the way that it did. And I'm like, these are all very different films, all very standalone films. None are in any sort of way really reliant upon another. So I feel like
watch
just
them in quick succession too. I'd probably almost recommend grouping them together by like their similarities, right? So
yeah, maybe do one and four, and then Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness or something like that, just so you kind of get more of a closer feel to it. That would make sense because I mean the remake, I think that's the portmanteau of remake and reboot. They feel much more stylistically similar, whereas Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness feel much more stylistically connected than anything else in the franchise. So that might be a good call. I could get behind that. Do you have any final thoughts on the Evil Dead franchise?
Final thoughts. This is one of the best horror franchises you can get behind. It doesn't have 45 sequels like a lot of the slasher movies and stuff.
Which is nice. It's nice, and there's no diminishing returns either, I wouldn't say either. I mean, even though maybe we both put Evil Dead 2, dead last in our rankings, it still has a lot of value overall. So
absolutely.
It's short and concise, and I can't speak for the TV show, obviously, but 4 films that I think you'll find a lot of value in for very different reasons, which is kind of cool too.
Yeah. So yeah, there you have it, man. That's the Evil Dead franchise.
Evil Dead.
That was the Resident Evil.
Evil Dead?
Announcer version of Evil Dead. Yeah, we'll do the Resident Evil franchise sometime in the future, I think. That'll be good. Yeah. Well, I don't know what else to say other than you've heard our thoughts on the Evil Dead franchise, and I think we both will highly recommend that you check them out any way you can. And we can also just say, just generally speaking, happy Halloween if you're listening to this on Patreon, then it should be in time for Halloween. Otherwise, unfortunately, Halloween has passed. But there's never a bad time to watch horror movies, I always say. And when I say that, I always say it, I just said it now, and therefore it's true. But I think that horror movies always have their time and place, and I know not everyone enjoys horror films and such, but there's obviously some variances in genres here, so I think that if you're more inclined toward a comedic type thing, then maybe give your Evil Dead 2, give your Army of Darkness a look, and if you're a horror buff and you haven't seen the Evil Dead, or if you haven't seen the remake reboot, give it a try. Give it a try, honestly. So that would be my final thoughts on the Evil Dead franchise. So without further ado, I will go ahead and say thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, please spread the word. Spread the gospel of the Watch, Review, Repeat to your friends. Just to reiterate what I said up top, this is a Patreon timed exclusive bonus episode. So for those of you folks who think you might be interested in listening to any future bonus episodes, just head to our website, watchreviewrepeat.com, click the premium tab in the top left, and then click the become a patron button. That will take you to our Patreon, or if you'd rather skip all those steps, just head to patreon.com/watchreviewrepeat $2 a month will get you access to all of our bonus episodes that we put out as soon as they're available, typically at least a few weeks before they're available to anyone else. And you'll get early access to all of our regular episodes, usually at least a few days in advance of everyone else. So there's a lot of incentives on that front alone if you just can't get enough of us. So there you go. Website is watchreviewrepeat.com. We are on Twitter at WRRPod. We are on Facebook at Watch Review Repeat. Just search in the Facebook search bar for us, and you'll find us. Questions, comments, and suggestions. We have a section of the show called the Listener's Corner where we like to talk about things that our listeners have seen recently. And if you'd like to contribute and kind of interact with us vaguely on air, it's not live or anything like that, but we'd love to have some input from you guys. Maybe you have some thoughts on the Evil Dead franchise. Maybe it's one of your favorite franchises too. Or maybe you think that there's a horror franchise out there that's just a little bit better. We're all here for the hot takes too. So watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com is going to be your best bet to get in touch with us. Our intro and outro track is created by Kevin MacLeod. It's called Mechanolith. Available over at incompetech.com. It's licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. And look forward to some future bonus episodes, some future regular episodes, and look forward to Andrew taking you out right now.
Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Hail to the king, baby.